incredibly lucky on this cruise to visit both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Now, some people are a little confused about the two, and there are differences. Northern Ireland, part of the UK, the United Kingdom. Republic of Ireland, which is in the southern area, independent. It is its own country. And it has been independent since 1949. And if you're in the north, in Northern Ireland, you'll be using British pounds to buy things. But if you're in the south, Republic of Ireland, you'll be using euros. Or in most cases, I just use my debit card. And speed limits are even different. They are posted in miles in Northern Ireland, and in Southern Ireland in kilometers. So when we talk about capitals, Belfast is the capital of Northern Ireland, and Dublin is the capital of the Republic of Ireland. Now, our first stop was in Northern Ireland. And a little trivia here. Did you know that there is no border crossing? You just, on one highway you're going and all of a sudden you're in Northern Ireland instead of Republic of Ireland. There are no borders essentially between the two countries. Before the cruise, I joined an independent van tour organized by somebody on Cruise Critic. We were using Patty Campbell, a local source, for our excursion that day. So we landed in Belfast. Morning! Because we were only going to be in port from 12 noon to 8 p.m. that night. And our tour was going to last 6+ hours. So we wanted to get started. And lo and behold, what did we go by right when we were leaving our port was the shipyard where the Titanic was built. It seems like the Titanic history is following us. Our first stop was what they call Dark Hedges. It's a breathtaking avenue of beech trees that's instantly recognizable to any Game of Thrones fan. You know, walking under the green canopy felt like stepping into another world, especially when we bumped into some Game of Thrones cosplayers. Of course, I had to get a photo in the arches to send my sons, who are huge fans of the show. A little more trivia, Northern Ireland hosts 16 locations, and some say even more, for the Games of Thrones series. On our way to the Giant's Causeway, we stopped at another Games of Thrones location, this time the Blarney Castle, and you can go inside. It's only about £6 per person, so it's very reasonable. But again, we were under time constraints, so we just looked at it from afar. And did you know the world's oldest whiskey distillery is here? That's right, Bushmills. It dates back, believe it or not, to 1608. We made a quick stop there, and some people got some souvenirs, but again, didn't really have time to do the tour. Now, I have to admit, I'm more of a Jameson fan, so the tour didn't really interest me. On our way to the Giant's Causeway, our tour guide shared some tidbits about local dishes.
So besides Irish stew, what's the main treat of Irish?
Well, you would get a fish supper with a lot of them.
Yeah, fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
No, you better believe it.
Bangers and mash.
Yeah.
Sausages
Well,
and
that's
mash.
just like the Irish. I mean, like the English. Bangers and mash.
They'll tell you that their fish chips are better in Ireland,
okay.
though, yeah.
What you find nowadays, though, a lot of people are into fast food. Everything's fast food.
Yeah.
You know, people don't cook or bake the way they would have done years
No.
ago. You want something to eat, you lift their phone, and the next thing there's a delivery guy at the door. Should it be Chinese, Indian, fish supper, anything you want, it's delivered to the door.
How about Irish soda bread?
Soda bread. I had soda bread this morning with my breakfast.
Okay. And did your wife make
potato
it?
bread? No.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
another one favourite is potato bread. They call it an Ulster fry.
Okay.
Which is potato bread, soda bread, bacon, eggs, sausage.
And again, because we were pressed for time, I did not get to sample any of them. Although black pudding, Not something I'd really enjoy, although my husband doesn't mind it. And then we arrived at the UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Giant's Causeway. The walk down was worth it, revealing 40,000 massive black basalt columns rising dramatically from the sea, formed by, I guess, volcanic activity 50 to 60 million years ago. And we saw plenty of sheep grazing alongside of the road. And here's another trivia fact. There are more sheep in Ireland than people. You know, the part of the tour that struck me most, though, I mean, the scenery was beautiful, but was when we went through the side streets of Belfast. And in case you're not familiar with the history of Northern Ireland, there has been a division between Protestants and Catholics for eons. You know, for years, Catholics were treated as second-class citizens, and it was a reality summed up by James Craig, the first Prime Minister of North Ireland, when he described the government as a, quote, Protestant parliament for Protestant people. And the conflict in the 20th century in Northern Ireland is known as the Troubles. And during the Troubles, over 3,600 people died. And the violence was carried out by both sides, the paramilitary and the security forces. But it officially ended with the Good Friday Agreement in 1968. But unfortunately, that sentiment that fueled the them and us sentiment still remains.
That's you hear people talk about the peace line, the dividing line between the two. This is the dividing line between the two communities in this part of the city.
So that still exists today then?
Oh yeah.
And in Belfast, some neighborhoods are still fenced in. Protestant fenced on one side, Catholic fenced on the other. And these fences and walls, which were called peace walls, were erected, and sometimes gates even locked, to keep people safe. And believe it or not, here's another trivia bit, over 100 of those peace walls still exist in Belfast. I thought maybe I'd see more of a change. Michelle O'Neill recently became the first Catholic to lead Northern Ireland's government, and her election marked a significant shift in 2021. It said there were more Catholics than there were Protestants. But when you look into this further, and our guide said so too, young people generally aren't going to church. So it's not so much about religion as ideology and perception of past wrongs. So when we were going down the streets, we saw some beautiful murals that further divided the community because
supportive of the Palestinian movement, and they've created a whole montage of murals up on this wall. You'll see it up here, all in support of the Palestinians. What happens here on a Saturday? The march down here waving Palestinian flags and so forth down to City Hall, which is down in the centre here. So very supportive on this side of the Palestinians.
The Catholic side of the murals was all in support of the Palestinians, and on the side they had some murals that were in support of the Israeli.
How many Palestinians are around here?
Living here?
Yeah.
Maybe 5. There's no Palestinians living here.
Ideology, I
It's
think.
just-
more.
What the idea behind this support for the Palestinians, because they deem the Palestinians to be in a similar position what they were in, being oppressed by the British. They see the Palestinians being oppressed by the Israelis. So anyone who's oppressed, any community, they're always out in support on this side.
So it's not because there's a lot of Palestinians living in Belfast. Instead, the Catholic side is saying, we have suffered under colonialism for 800 years, and we see the Palestinians under similar colonial occupation. So we sympathize. But then the Protestant side said, well, we sympathize with the Israelis because we were the target of many terrorist acts over the years during the Troubles. So again, further division. So it was kind of with a heavy heart that I left Belfast. I certainly hope that all of Ireland someday can come together. But whether I'll see that in my lifetime, I just don't know. So the next day at noon, we arrive at the port of Cobh, which is only about a half hour from Cork. And it's beautiful. It is sunny outside. So we are actually taking a ship excursion this time. So we hurry to get on our bus. Now, if we didn't take this excursion, there were other ones like a walking tour of Cork or a tour of, yes, my favorite distillery, Jameson. Most people think it's the Shamrock, but here's some trivia for you. It is the harp that is the national symbol of Ireland. In fact, probably 45 years ago, my husband had his friend who is a jeweler make me this little harp that I wear every day on St. Patrick's Day. And my grandparents on my father's side, who I never met, they were dead before I was born, actually immigrated from County Cork in Ireland in the late 1890s. So this area had a little bit more meaning to me. But sadly, again, time constraints. We really didn't have time to explore the Cork and surrounding countryside that much. We had to go straight to Blarney Castle. And our guide was very good about narrating and telling us about historical sites. And yes, one more thing about the Titanic. Wow. Iceland, we had the graves from the Titanic. Northern Ireland, we had where the Titanic was built. And now we have this.
But, you know, Cobh, one thing we always talk about in Cobh is the Titanic. And the reason we talk about the Titanic here is because this was the last port of call for the Titanic. The Titanic, the unsinkable ship, I mean, you know the story of it, 1912, and it hit an iceberg off the coast of Newfoundland. But it left Southampton in the UK, heading for New York, but it stopped here in Cork, you know, to take on some passengers.
And we went by an absolutely gorgeous church that I would have liked to explore more.
And look at this. This is just divine, isn't it? It's Church of Ireland. It's their mother church. Yeah, and it's got the spires. It's actually got 74 glass windows. From this side, if you look, there's a Goldie angel up on the top. Yeah, and they say when she blows that trumpet that's in her hand now, that'll be the end of the world. And we here in Cork, we'll hear it and we'll be first up to the gates of heaven.
And past the naval base.
Looking out to the left, to the beautiful harbour, we have got Haulbowline Island. That's just on the left there. Now Haulbowline Island is our naval base. We have 9 naval vessels altogether. At the moment, I saw already 3 of them are up here in a dockyard.
And past another castle, which has kind of been renovated, my understanding.
In front of us, we've got an amazing castle called Blarney Castle. That would go back to the 14th century, from the 14th century, yeah. And Sir Walter Raleigh stayed there at one time.
Now, when we arrived, the parking lot was full. It was a holiday, so there was a lot of families there. And we said, boy, you know, what's the crowd going to be like? But once we got further onto the property, it wasn't bad at all. So at the Blarney Castle, when we got near, bagpipes greeted us. But you really can't go inside the castle. You can go down to a little dungeon area or up the 128 very narrow steps to the Blarney Stone itself. And you know, the participants must have been backward to kiss it, and it was a really long line. And again, limited time. We didn't want to spend all of our time waiting to stand in line, because I think I already got kind of the gift of gab, so I don't need it to be enhanced by the Blarney Stone. Instead, we spent a lot of our time in the absolutely gorgeous gardens around the castle. There are actually 60 acres to explore. My granddaughter would love the carnivorous plant garden and the poisonous plants garden. She loves the macabre. And I just love this tree on the way to the fern garden. You can't climb it, but boy, it seems inviting to be a jungle gym. And we really loved the Fern Garden walk. Oh yeah. There's palm trees coming up. I don't understand how they're able to grow palm trees.
The weird furries. They're cool. Let's just trim them down all the time sometimes.
I don't know. They die off in the winter at home. Whew. Man, this is beautiful. And I called them palm trees because some of them look more like palm trees to me, but I guess they are ferns. It was just so peaceful. And even though that parking lot was so full, we rarely saw anyone on our walk. And before leaving, I just had to explore the Badger's Cave.
I think you're going to film too well here. Mind your head. Even you.
Want me to meet you back out there?
Yeah.
And my husband started with me, but you know, he's over 6 foot. I'm just about 5 foot, a little over. It got pretty low there, so he stopped. So for once, being short wins, but then I had to laugh. I looked down afterwards and just look at my shoes and my jeans. I don't know how to describe this. It was just so peaceful. And walking through the gardens, you know, I wouldn't have been surprised if I would have saw a little fairy pop up. Didn't see any leprechauns. It was almost magical. It was wonderful. And then on our way out, we see cows grazing in the countryside, a little stream. I highly recommend, if you ever get the chance to go to Ireland, go to the Blarney Castle and spend time in the wonderful gardens. Maybe have a picnic out there. It is just so, so beautiful. So on our way out, we stopped at the woolen mills, and it features a lot of items made from actual wool from Ireland, their sheep, right? And made into wonderful sweaters and vests. But it's pretty expensive, but it looks really high quality. So after touring there, and of course, having to buy some souvenirs, yes, I got this shirt, this t-shirt. It's very heavy, very nice. I could wear it on St. Paddy's Day, but I also could wear it at my grandson's hockey games. And then I got the grandkids these little doodads to wear on St. Patrick's Day. And for my 2 nephews who have the same surname, I got them bottle openers that had our surname on it. So then we stopped and had an Irish coffee. It was part of the excursion, and it felt good. I mean, we just sat there, nice breeze, hot cup of Irish coffee. It was really, really good. And then sadly, we had to get back on our bus and go back to the ship. Of all the places we visited on this cruise, this is the only place my husband and I said, gosh, I wish we could spend more time. Let's go back. And that is Ireland. I would have loved to nurse a Guinness in a pub. And did you know, of course, that Ireland is home to the oldest pub in the world, Sean's Bar, which has been serving patrons since 900 AD. And another trivia, there are over 7,000 Irish-themed bars, taverns, pubs in the world. So yes, I would have liked to experience an Irish pub. I would have loved to walk in the Kilcarney Park, see the wonderful library at Trinity College, and just see Dublin do so much more. So yes, we enjoyed our trip to Ireland, and someday we will be back. Erin go bragh. I hope you experience Ireland sometime in your lifetime too. And remember, adventure awaits.